Max, hey, congratulations, season two of The Irrational.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting.
You know what? It is such a good series. But tell us what initially drew you that you wanted to be part of this wonderful cast in this project.
Yeah, I hadn't done a sort of regular gig on a procedural as such before, so I was very excited to know what that would be like. I've done a lot of guest work on shows like that, but to be a bit more part of the core group was a really exciting challenge to be, on set a lot of the time and learning as I went. And the show is it's exciting, it's interesting, it's different, I think, than a lot of other procedurals in the same market, and that it has this behavioral science, very academic, university-led bent to it. So yeah, I was excited to play a character who's obviously far smarter than me.
Let's not sell yourself short, but let's. How would you describe Simon here, as the newcomer for this series?
Yeah, they've written a really exciting character with a lot of angles to him, which is a lot of fun to play, and there's a richness to his backstory that I was really grateful for and excited to bring to light. So I think for him, he has this baggage from early life trauma, having lost his brother to suicide, and we revealed that in last week's episode. And so that I think is driving a lot of his actions of wanting to. In my mind, I felt he was trying to create the life that his brother didn't get to have. So trying to make the best of his time on this earth. And for him, that means becoming the best in his field at what he does, regardless of his name, because obviously he could probably float on that more than he does. And I think there's a fear that he's going to be associated with the name Wilton, having been obviously the owners of the university where he works. And so wanting to prove himself beyond what others might assume as nepotism. So there's a lot that's driving him, and obviously comes from a lot of wealth, but wants to be a part of a team. And I like that he wasn't an entitled sort of character, because I think it'd be easier to write that given his backstory.
What is that? What do you think his motivation is, to join Alex's team on, in this situation? Is he out there trying to prove himself, or is it like a escapism from, his own issues and problems?
Mm. Probably a combination. I think what I decided when I read about his backstory in the episode we just aired, was that I figured somebody who had lost a brother to such a tragic event, and then have it be the situation bungled by parents, well-meaning parents who didn't tell them the truth about how it happened and essentially covered up the truth. That I decided that for him, that drove him to understand how that could happen, not only to his brother, but then how well-meaning parents that he thought wanted the best for him didn't tell him the truth. And I think he became someone who was obsessed with understanding the truth. And so that drove him to study um, psychobiology and understand what it is that can drive someone to become so troubled. And that brought him to WIFA, to this department at Wilton, because that's the premier spot likely in the country that studies this sort of behavior. And he wanted to be a part of that, and to, in a way, perhaps make amends for the survivor's guilt he feels around his brother. That was my choice, at least.
Absolutely. And what makes a series like this wonderful is the characters themselves, because the characters are, like you say, real and flawed in their own way. So how do you, Max, get into that mental state of the character Simon going through his struggles?
Well, I think like any actor, we draw from our own experiences, as well as using our own imagination. And hopefully some training has seeped through. But I'm not completely unfamiliar with a character like this. I went to a private school for a couple of years growing up and was around some kids at the time who came from some pretty exorbitant wealth, and it did not mean that they didn't have problems and were like, you know, anyone else, but there was a lot of pressure on them to succeed in their life, and that took a mental toll on a lot of them, I remember. So I've been privy to situations like that and seen that there is a dark side to privilege. And so I think I leaned on my experience having witnessed a lot of that growing up, but at the same time, I think there's no substitute for imagination. You know, the writing was great in this. I think they gave me a multi-dimensional character with a lot to draw from. So I personally like to lean more into imagining who this character could be based on, you know, anything characters I've seen in films before or books I've read, and creating someone that's hopefully unique and stands out and isn't hasn't been seen before.
Did you do any outside research into what you describe as psychobiology, or do you basically, you know what, I just trust the words on the page of the scripts?
Yeah. I did for sure. I did look into it. I mean, I didn't even understand what it really was. I mean, I'd probably heard the concept floating around with my limited time university, or with friends that are much more academic than me. But no, I definitely looked into it to understand the basics of it. I don't think unless I don't believe unless it is feeding immensely into the script that it's necessary to get too bogged down into extraneous details of one's field. I think understanding why someone's doing that is more interesting to me than knowing, because there's no way I could possibly learn everything there is about this field that is so layered, and there's endless peer-reviewed papers one could just constantly read about it. So I'm more interested in the human aspect of why he was drawn to it and what he's getting out of it and where he wants, what kind of closure he's looking for in his own life through studying and now working in this field.
Well said, well said. And as a newcomer of someone just joining a show, how do you develop chemistry with the rest of the cast who've been been together for already at least one season?
Yeah, I mean it was pretty easy. They were all really easygoing people that are hardworking actors who bring something unique to the table every day and leave their egos at the door. So that was it was not a challenge whatsoever. I think we found an easy dynamic, and obviously spending some time outside of work together, getting to know each other a bit. We chemistry came quite naturally, and that's a gift. That doesn't always happen for sure. So I was very grateful that I didn't have to worry that it was ever going to be anything but a super professional and exciting set to be on with smart actors who are well trained and come from diverse backgrounds of of the stage and of screen and of film and such. And so I think everyone brought their own unique vibe to the set, and I think everyone's quite well cast. So it felt quite seamless.
Well said. And Max, let me wrap it up with this one last question here. Can you
Mhm.
give us a tease for the rest of the season? Just a small tease what we should expect.
Yeah, there's some juicy stuff coming down the pipe. Our next episode that's going to come out on the 26th is all about, I will say, it's about something called forecasting. So it's a concept I wasn't familiar with, but essentially there are people out there that through algorithms essentially can predict if a disaster could befall our civilization. And so there are some forecasters that come to Alec and present what could be a catastrophic disaster involving the train system of America, I would say. So that is what's coming down the pipe. And I think what's really exciting about the show is that they draw a lot from current events. I think we've already seen in some episodes that have preceded this last week's that there are, not pulled straight from the headlines, but there are inspirations from things that are going on globally. So we have a few episodes that involve Russia, and we have some episodes that involve NASA. And I think people are going to find that really exciting to know that this show has its finger on the pulse.
Well, I'm excited that you joined this show of the Irrational. So, Max, thank you very much for speaking to us about this this series, and welcome to the team as everyone.
Rob, thanks for good questions. Appreciate it, Gabe.
Hey, thank you. Bye now.